You may have seen my YouTube short about my compressor and the pressure switch going out. So I took it all apart, ordered a new pressure switch. This is the exact same model number that was on it. The one exception, or not really an exception other than this is the unloader valve that was on it, and because of stuff back here, it required a right angle unloader valve, and they are no longer manufactured, so I couldn't find one. The only switch I found with a right angle unloader valve on it, this is a Lifu, which is what was on here. The only one I could find with a right angle unloader valve on it was Camber Housefield, and they were $65 or $75, and I just wasn't gonna, I didn't see the sense in doing that. So if this one doesn't work, I put it over here, and if it doesn't work, I'll put this one back on. It's no big deal. I just have to figure out how to route the copper or aluminum tube, whatever it is, to this. I've already put a bracket down here for the dryer that I'm going to install, because this thing kept spitting a lot of water into my air tools, and air tools don't like water. So I put a dryer here, and so I'm going to come out of the tank into this pressure switch, out to the dryer, and then into here. So that's the plan of attack. I've put my high pressure safety valve in. It still works. I put a plug on this side because this is where the air is going to come out to my dryer. So now it's time to dope this fitting up and screw this on. I've been researching dryers for compressors, and at some point I want to put a big dryer here that this feeds into before it comes into the tank. But that's something in the future. Right now I just need to get this thing running. I don't know if that's tight enough or if I need to go down further. Yeah, that was the right decision. I didn't dope this as a compression fitting. Okay, hopefully that won't leak. Now, I just need to make sure I do this the right way before I put this panel back on. This is out to my tools. So, this dryer is tiny. I really thought it was going to be a little bigger, but it should work. I'll just keep an eye on it and drain the water out here as I need. And it says flow is that way, so I need to mount this way with this going out to my tools, and I will put the hose from here to here. I bought the shortest hose I could find. And it's still too long, but it was $3.99 at Harbor Freight as opposed to $12 or $15 online. I basically undid the bolt like that from over here, and I had to drill the bracket out a little bit with a step bit and mounted this bracket on. That's aluminum. I don't want to strip it out. You know, I might have just messed up. I did. I'm gonna have to take this back off. Why, you say? Because I don't think these are swivel joints. They look like they might be, but I don't think so. So I'll dope this up. You could use Teflon tape, it would do the same. Work just as well. That should be tight enough. Now I'm going to take this off again. That's going to go on the end. It'd be really nice if these were swivel joints, but those are even more expensive. Don't need a whole lot of this stuff. Just enough. Okay, that goes in and then it's out. Okay, make sure I'm doing this right, you know. Let's see. That's tight enough. Okay, this I didn't loosen, so I'm all right there. All of these are tight. I didn't loosen this one, but I don't want to put this in place just yet because I need to do the wires. Okay, I took a picture of these wires on the old switch. Remember, this is the same model number, so they should be the same, right? Yeah, not. Coming in this side was the wire to the motor. And the wire to the motor, the ground went over here, and the wires went to the bottom terminal. That's not what this says. This says the line to the motor or the top terminal, and the bottom line is the power supply. So I've got to rework that a little bit. Always something, ain't it? Rather than putting this line in first, I will put it in last. And these wires had these stays in them, but these holes are perfectly round. They're not cut to fit these, so I've got to take these off. It says power supply to the bottom, so I'm gonna believe it. Connect the ground wire. Now what I am going to do is make sure that I put the whites where they were. Whites were on the left, blacks on the right, and line in is bottom. I don't mind telling y'all I feel uneasy about this. I have no choice but to adhere to what this diagram is telling me. It says the bottom is the power supply because up here are my adjuster knobs for my pressure. The old one, of course, didn't have a diagram. It just says this. And of course the manual doesn't show. I mean, why would it? It's only important it doesn't show because if you have problems with your compressor, they want you to throw it away and buy a new one, right? So part of why I'm doing this is to show you if you have the same compressor and have the problems, the same problem I've had, or I have. Just like when I showed you how I replaced my controller inverter on my Powermatic 3520B, same thing here. Fix it if you can. Of course, I could have bought a new programmed controller from Powermatic and spent 4 times as much money doing it, but I mean, why? I don't understand. Some people will do it because they want to stay with original Powermatic equipment, and I understand that. Okay, so I've got my ground line in, and now out to the motor. A wiring diagram from Cobalt sure would have been nice. I could plug it in and smoke check it now. It's just going to blow air straight out of here. The strange thing, this is on with the old switch. This is off. So that's why these are backwards, because that's the way it works. This is on, this is on, off. But before, that was on. They've either changed up the way they do this or something. I'm not real sure. I still have to test this, but I can't test this valve, the unloader valve, until I get my pressure set. And before I can get my pressure set, I have to connect the manifold. So I'm not going to screw it in place by any means, because I'm going to need to move it out of the way to adjust my pressure. Because from the factory, it's set to kick on at 95 and off at 125. So I'm going to have to adjust. The one on the upper left a little bit to dial it in to get it to kick on at 120, and that should also make it kick off at 150. So I'm going to adjust just the left side, and then I'll adjust the right if I need to. So right now, I'll take this hose and I'll dope it up and I'll screw it in here. Thankfully, that is a swivel connection. You can tell it's been blowing water because that's kind of rusted up. Let me go clean that up a little bit. I've cleaned all the rest of it up, so let me go clean that up and I'll be back. Okay, much better. I cleaned it up with a little needle file. One of the few negatives I've read about this compressor. I've been really happy with it over the years. Of course, it started acting up a couple of months after the warranty was up. But one of the switch going bad is one issue that it has. But more often than that, apparently, is, from what I've been reading, let me get this started and I'll show you what I'm talking about. See if I can get in the way anymore. I'm trying to stay out of y'all's way, honest. So apparently a common problem with this compressor, boy, that's barely gonna fit, is the manifold back here. The metal cracks and breaks on this manifold and it starts leaking. That has not happened to me. The manifold is still fine on mine. If it happens to break, what I will do is I will take this panel off and basically build my own manifold. I'll reuse the panel if I can. If I can't, so be it. Basically plumb some parts together, because all you really need is a way to deliver air from the tank to your tools, and that's all the manifold is for. I don't want to put any stress on that bracket if I don't have to, so I'm going to put some backup on. Okay, so we're operational. I just need to plug it in and turn it on and check for leaks. Everything's clear, no chances of spark. I wish I could have used my stays because they're more secure than these rubber things, but I'm not going to be pulling on the cords, so that's not an issue. Now let's see if it'll pressure up. The unloader's working. There's no leaks. It's holding pressure at 28 psi. Let's keep going. Unloader works great. That's good. It cut off at 125, which is what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to turn on at 90, so I am going to make one more upgrade to this very soon. I'm going to get a Flexzilla hose reel and mount it on the ceiling up there and then run a line to it. But I will be upgrading all of these to the high output or high flow couplers. I think that will help especially when I'm running my dual action, my little 2-inch dual action random orbit pneumatic sander, and some of my other air tools. Okay, it says it's supposed to kick on at 95, kicked on just under 100. So let me turn that off. Now, it says to turn this clockwise to increase my cut in and my cutout pressure. It'll do both. So I'm going to turn it about 1/8 of a turn and turn it on and see where it stops. Okay, I kicked it 1/8 of a turn and it shut off at 128. So let's get a little bit more. It's off. Kick on there. That's 130. So apparently a half a turn is roughly 5 psi. That was 145. I turned it just over 1/4 of a turn. I'm going to leave it like that. Now see how hard it is to try not to bang anything around. Alright, that snaps in like that. Just like that. Okay. Now we can put that together. Okay, back together. It seems to be working just fine, so we'll see. I'll keep you updated as to how well that happened. So it's back together. Seems to be working just fine. So now, if you'll excuse me, I have a whole lot of stuff to clean up and put back where it belongs so that I can get back to doing some real work.